What's going on, everybody? We are back going over each NFL team in alphabetical order, and we are on to the Dallas Cowboys. Dad, I wanted to ask you, fill in the blank. The Cowboys are a top blank team in the NFC. So give me a number. Top what team in the NFC?
Well, I'll just say, what is there? 7 playoff teams, so I guess they'd be top 5. With
Yeah.
the 49ers, 49ers, Eagles. But
Yeah.
then you gotta somebody's gonna bust out. Is it the Lions? Is it the Seahawks? Is it the Falcons? Is it the Saints?
Yeah.
Some of those guys, some of those teams are really gonna pop up. So the Cowboys should be right there. Do they have enough? Their next step is to try and get in to the NFC Championship game, of course. But they're gonna have to beat one of these better teams, the Eagles or the
Yeah.
49ers, and they haven't been able to do it. So we'll just call them a top 5. They should be a playoff
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, I think that's safe. I mean, after the Eagles and 49ers in the NFC, it's like you can kind of order these other teams how you want. Is it the line? Like, there's kind of a lot of uncertainty. I'd probably say Cowboys, as of now, are probably going to be, I would maybe give them the third spot, but the Lions could overtake that, like you said. We'll see about the Giants, who are a playoff team, and Seahawks. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. But yeah, we're getting into it. We're looking at the depth charts of each NFL team, kind of going over what we think they're going to do fantasy wise. We'll talk real football, maybe dynasty, but mostly redraft football. Um, and as always, we start with the quarterbacks. I'm going to share my screen here with you guys so you can see the depth chart here. And yeah, I mean, obviously, the quarterback position, we have Dak Prescott, who I just learned as of right now, his nickname is the Fortress. Never heard that
What?
before, but
What?
the football, yeah, football reference, baseball reference. If a player has a nickname, they put their nickname on their profile.
Never have heard
And
of that.
yeah, so I guess Dak Prescott is the Fortress. So,
That's funny.
um,
Funny we're doing the Cowboys. I'm kind of disclosing where I live. The Cowboys are about 5 miles away, doing training camp in Oxnard, California. That's where I live. So,
they there
and
now.
I get asked all the time, "Are you going? Are you going?" And I did go. When they first started coming here many years ago. I don't go now. Too many
Yeah,
obnoxious fans and stuff like that. But seriously, they're 5 miles away
yeah,
from my
they're there
location.
right now.
They are.
Yeah,
They're
nice.
there.
Yeah, so we'll get into it with Dak Prescott. Dak's career, he started off as kind of like a decent in terms of fantasy, like a decent player. He wasn't maybe like a spot starter. His first 3 years, he threw 23, 22 touchdowns. Um, and then after that, from 2019 on, he kind of took a step up to where he was throwing 30 plus touchdowns and, over 4,000, 4,500 yards. We look at 2019, Dak was actually the QB2 that year, which is a little shocking. 2020, he got hurt. That was the year he got hurt, but he was off to a ridiculous start, a crazy start. I think he was like the number one quarterback over the first 4 weeks until he got hurt in week 5. Dad, I know you remember that because you had him on one of your teams. Um,
I did.
2020, yeah, 2021, he was QB7, and 2022 last year he was QB18, but he was also, he also missed 5 games. He averaged almost 18 points a game, which is basically what like Trevor Lawrence averaged. So he would have been right around Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence had he played the whole year. So we kind of know what we're getting with Dak. It feels like you're getting a most likely, if healthy, a top 12 guy. And there's that potential for him maybe to get into the top 8 or something. I don't really see him, maybe he can get into the top 5. But if everyone's healthy, Dad, everyone plays 17 games. Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, all of them. Where do you see Dak finishing in the quarterback world? Top 12,
Yeah,
top.
I'd say right around that 8 to 10 mark. So I'm sure he's going to be in the 4,000 yards, 4,500 yards. Last year, he had a little bit of an interception problem. 2021, he was 37 TDs, 10 touchdowns. I could kind of see that happening again, maybe 32 touchdowns. He's got to stop turning the ball over a little bit. But, in the fantasy world, right there at about number 10, I think, and I can't sit here and cite who are the other 9. There's at least 5 or 6 I could come off the top of my head. But Dak belongs in that, I don't know what you want to call it, tier 2, maybe tier 3.
Yeah. Yeah, probably tier 3. Yeah, maybe the end of tier 2. Yeah, basically what you're saying is I agree right along the same lines as you. Is he's what you're getting with Dak, and yeah, like that 2021 season again, that was 2 years ago. That wasn't like ages ago. 37 touchdowns is a lot of touchdowns. That's not many guys get over 30. I think last year, I want to say there was only like 5 quarterbacks that threw for 30 touchdowns last year. I'm going to double check that, but it doesn't happen. You think it happens a lot. It's like, okay, that's like less than 2 a game, right? You think that would happen quite a bit, but it really doesn't. So you had Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Geno Smith. 4 quarterbacks threw for 30 touchdowns last year. That's it. Kirk Cousins didn't, Goff didn't, Rodgers, Brady, Herbert, all these guys didn't do it. So, last year was a bit of a down year. You'll probably get more like 6 or 7 guys that do it, but to throw 37, that's like a whole nother step up, right? Yeah, you know what you're getting with Dak, and what's nice about Dak is right now he's going. If I move this to, let's go from June. Let's go to July now since we're almost into August. Basically, from since the month of July, Dak Prescott is QB 11, and you can get him 93rd overall. 93rd overall in a 12-team league is almost that's in late round 8. And that's to me that's nice. I think I'd rather take a Dak Prescott in late round 8 than I would to take a Trevor Lawrence in early round 5. Right? Just the caliber of player you can get at the receiver or running back in round 5 versus round 8. I think I'd rather just wait. And you're going to get most likely a top 12 guy. So I don't know if you agree with that, Dad. If you like the value of Dak there in late round 8.
I don't know. I've done Dak once, and I'd prefer to just do something else, But
yeah, no, that's fair. And the one downside is, what's that?
No, go ahead.
I was saying the one downside is ever since his kind of brutal ankle injury, he hasn't really given you much on the ground. 150 yards in 2021, 182 last year, a little bit more, about 15 yards a game. Before that, though, before his ankle injury, he was giving you, close to 20 yards a game. So you were getting a little bit more. If you can get back to maybe that 20 yards, there's that. So I don't know. I like the Dak. If I can get him in the 8th round when everyone else is taking their quarterbacks in the 5th round, and I can, snag up a receiver, then I kind of like that value. So move on to the running backs.
Sure.
So the running backs, you can see the depth chart here. We have Tony Pollard, and then not a whole lot behind him. We have Malik Davis, who's an unknown guy. We don't really know much about Malik Davis. He's kind of listed as their number 2. We don't really know who's the number 2, essentially. Malik Davis, I think, is going into his 3rd year, maybe his 2nd year.
Second season.
And behind him, you have an old name. 2nd season.
Yes.
Behind him, you have an old name in Ronald Jones. You have a rookie in Deuce Vaughn, who's intriguing, but fact of the matter is the guy's like 180 pounds, and that doesn't play very much as a running back. So, Dad, we'll start with Tony Pollard. Let's just say this running back room stays the same. How excited are you for Tony Pollard in 2023 if nothing changes?
I'm really kind of surprised that they did not re-sign Zeke. So I think they tried. I think the Zeke Pollard, whatever you want to call it, stack or handcuff or anything else. I know that's a fantasy term, but I'm talking about in real life. I think it worked.
Yeah, the 1-2 punch.
It absolutely worked. It worked last year, kind of worked the year before. Zeke had a huge contract, so he's going to sit there and wait until somebody wants to give him more money. He might be waiting a long time. So I don't see. We've talked about Tony Pollard, even going back to his college years, where he was not an RB1. He was not a bell cow. He was not a dude who was going to be carrying the ball a whole bunch of times. Last year, he did have 193 carries, and he rushed for over 1,000 yards. I think, but he broke his ankle. He had a pretty serious injury. I think it was in the playoffs. So, but Tony Pollard can catch the ball. There's got to be somebody. There's got to be one of these guys that are behind him who's going to have to do more, and who that is. That's what the preseason's for, and training camp and stuff like that. We kind of know what Ronald Jones does. The Deuce Vaughn is a very very fast guy, but I think he's about, what is he, about 5'5" or 5'6"? Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, he's like I forget his exact height, but
Yeah,
he's like under 190, and
yeah, he's got some really good speed and moves and stuff like that. So he might fit in there somehow. Malik Davis, Ronald Jones. I have no idea, man. Flip a coin. After Tony Pollard, and good luck to you.
yeah, it's going to be interesting with Pollard because he was already so good last year, and he wasn't the bell cow, like you said. Not even 200 touches. It's not even like he had a crazy amount of catches. He didn't. He had like, what was it, 40 something catches?
39. I had
39. Yeah, that's like just over 2 a game. You would think, like, I think when you think Tony Pollard, you think, yeah, he had like 60 catches last year. No, like 39 catches is not a lot. The dude was just super efficient. 1,000 yards on less than 200 carries is very impressive. And then he got the touchdowns as well, 12 touchdowns, even with Zeke there. So yeah, even if they do sign someone, and it could be Ezekiel Elliott, they still could sign him. Even if they do, I'm still very which is he's RB7, late second round is where he's going. What's interesting though, he's going above Derrick Henry, he's going above Josh Jacobs, he's going above Ramondre Stevenson, even Najee Harris if you want to throw him in there. But the now is a little strange in my opinion. I still might lean. I understand why he is going over those guys. I think I definitely lean Josh Jacobs if obviously if he's there, and probably Henry as well over Pollard, just because we've seen it a little bit more, right? We've seen those guys be the bell cows. So, and I agree with you, Dad. There's going to be someone on this team, Malik Davis, Ronald Jones, Deuce Vaughn, that's going to be relevant. And so, like you said, the preseason is for that, and it's going to be interesting to watch because I think, that guy could have a very relevant role in fantasy. So I agree with you there. What's interesting is, that the Mike McCarthy, we want to run the ball more type of comments that were made. What was this like in before the NFL draft? I think,
Yeah.
shortly after the season, and they did nothing. And what I say is like actions speak louder than words. What did they do? Drafted a pass catching tight end in the second round. They didn't bring in any running back or draft a running back until round 7. It's like the they did nothing in the offseason to kind of point towards, yeah, we're going to run the ball more. And even if the Cowboys were already 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 they had the 6th most rush attempts last year. It's not like they didn't run the ball. They had the 6th most, one behind the Cleveland Browns, right? It's Falcons, Bears, Eagles, Commanders, Browns, Cowboys. So they don't have much room to run it more than what they already did. So, which I think is intriguing for the next group of guys, the wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb, I don't know if there's much argument here. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is a good player. He had a career best year of his career last year, over 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, 107 catches. Really good numbers there. You can't deny that CeeDee Lamb is a good player. He was wide receiver 6 last year in half PPR. And currently, Dad, if you want to draft CeeDee Lamb, it looks like you have to get him in the first round, the late first round. And this is a lot of PPR leagues. Are you comfortable? Let's say you have the 12th pick, Dad, and you do a running back, wide receiver, and let's just say, Jefferson, Chase, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs are gone. It's like CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Are you okay with CeeDee Lamb there?
I am, and I think he proved it last year. It's like everybody said, "Oh, is he going to be wide receiver 1?" And I kind of thought, nah, this guy ain't going to be, he's not going to. He took the next step in my mind. So I think now I know there's the other wide receivers which we're going to talk about have to come into play here, but I think CeeDee Lamb. I don't think I'd have a problem taking CeeDee Lamb in the second round.
Yeah. Yeah. And, PPR leagues, he's going to go in the first round in 12-team league, in my opinion. Half PPR, we'll see. Maybe a couple of guys get pushed up a little bit, a couple of those running backs. But either way, I mean, CeeDee Lamb's good. He's one of the top 6, 7 fantasy receivers. And if you want to go receiver in the first round, and CeeDee Lamb's a good choice at the end of the draft, end of the round to kind of snag up. And I don't really see much changing. What's also impressive was 5 games of that was without Dak, and he actually did all right with Cooper Rush. When Cooper Rush came in, he kind of targeted CeeDee Lamb a lot. So he kind of showed that he's a little bit quarterback proof as well. Like good receivers, they're just going to be good. We see it with Devontae Adams. Everyone's like, oh, he's no more Aaron Rodgers, and then Devontae Adams puts up 1,500 yards with Derek Carr. Oh, Derek Carr's out the last 2 weeks, and he puts up like a 150-yard game with Jarrett Stidham. Like good receivers just get open. So, what else is interesting is maybe the wide receiver 2 here, Brandon Cooks. All reliable there for a while. Brandon Cooks is going to be 30 years old basically at the beginning of the year. He was always Mr. Consistent, 1,100-yard guy, 6, 7 touchdowns, 80 catches. Last year, not so much. He had 700 yards in 13 games, 3 touchdowns, 57 catches. Dad, are you interested at all in Brandon Cooks as maybe like a wide receiver 3, a flex guy, or a bench piece?
Yeah, I'd say
What do you
I'd be
think?
comfortable as a 3 or 4. He's had like 6 or 7,000-yard seasons, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
think you're right.
just get him the ball, and I think this is, I think last year the Cowboys didn't have anybody like him. The next guy we're going to talk about, Michael Gallup. He's an okay receiver, but he was coming off an ACL, so they, maybe the three of them together. The problem is, we're talking fantasy, so we're thinking, well, who's going to be the Cowboys wide receiver number two?
Yeah.
A little bit of a roll of the dice here.
Yeah, it is. You would give Brandon Cooks probably the edge there, and maybe he can return a little bit more to form as he was, in his first 6-ish years of his career, where he was a deep threat guy. He's a little bit more than just a deep threat, but he could stretch the field, and now with CeeDee Lamb there and Michael Gallup there, can Brandon Cooks return to that to where he can get his 80 catches and average 13 yards a catch, 14 yards a catch, and get 1,000 yards. Dak has always passed the ball around. That was one of the frustrations we had. Is like, give it to CeeDee Lamb. Is Dak would spread the ball around, and there's a lot of targets missing with Dalton Schultz gone. So there's someone's going to have to step up as like the number 2 target, and it's a good chance it's Brandon Cooks. A couple guys he's going around, Dad. Would you take Brandon Cooks or Gabe Davis?
I'd probably take Cooks.
Okay, Brandon Cooks or Cortland Sutton?
I might take Cortland Sutton. I have a problem saying that. But
Mm-hmm. Last one, Brandon Cooks or Elijah Moore?
Probably Elijah Moore.
Okay.
Thinking he's going to do something in New York.
In Cleveland, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Was in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where he's going around. You can get him basically at the end of round 8, early round 9, and you could get a good option. But maybe even more intriguing, Dad, the guy you mentioned is Michael Gallup, because could Michael Gallup just be the second receiver on this team over Brandon Cooks? Brandon Cooks is more of a deep threat kind of guy, and I think so. And what's intriguing about Gallup is we just said Brandon Cooks, you have to pick he's a top 100 player. He's like 96th overall. Michael Gallup is 170th overall. You can get him way, way cheaper literally in round like 15 of your fantasy drafts. And you're possibly getting the second target getter on this team. Do you agree with that, Dad? Are you interested in Michael Gallup? Just that possibility?
Yeah, I would take Gallup as far, at that number you stated. Would you say 170?
170, yep. It's basically free. I mean, he's like the 15th round pick. Most fantasy drafts go 16, 17 rounds. So he's like essentially free, right? Yeah, I mean, Gallup, like 2020, he had 850 yards, 5 touchdowns. 2021, he played in, it looks like 9 games, started 8, and he was on pace for over 900 yards and, almost 70 catches. So last year, coming off a major injury, which was a part of the issue. But I don't know. I think I'd rather take a shot on Gallup than Brandon Cooks, just knowing that, like, all right, if Gallup doesn't hit after the first 2-3 weeks of the season, just cut him. You spent nothing on him. Just cut him and pick someone else up, right? And there's that chance. Beyond that, not much else to talk about with Jalen Tolbert. Rookie last year that had some hype, but didn't really do much. So we'll move on to the tight ends. I don't know, Dad, if you have a guy you're interested here. Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoon or Schoon?
Schoonmaker.
Rookie out of Michigan. Second round draft pick. Luke Ferguson's going into, I believe, his second year. I think he was a 4th round pick. Ferguson.
I think
Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson.
Dallas throws to the tight end, so
yeah.
So somebody, is it between both of those guys? They get 25 receptions apiece. I know that's not fantasy relevant, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, not much interest for me, I guess, in either one of these guys. Like you said, if one of them does kind of take over as the guy, the starter, then yeah, I'm interested. But I think it's going to be more like what you just said. It's going to be more of a timeshare, a split, and both these guys are going to get 30 catches. You know, rookie tight ends generally don't hit, so I'm not expecting much from Schoonmaker. Ferguson, we'll see. You know, it was a 4th-round pick going into his 2nd year. But, yeah, I'm just not really – I think more of it's going to go towards Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup than it is, you know, the loss of Dalton Schultz. So yeah, there we have it. With the Cowboys, any last words, Dad, you want to say? Where do you think the Cowboys said they're a playoff team? You know, do you think they can make it to the NFC Championship game, make a run?
No.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
Their defense isn't bad, but
they have a good
just
defense.
we'll see what
But
happens.
yeah, in a pretty tough division, I would say, with the Eagles, Giants, Commanders. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think they can make a run in the playoffs. Do I think it's likely? No, but I think they could. I definitely think they could. So, we'll be back tomorrow in the YouTube world with looking at the Denver Broncos and that little bit of a shit show last year. So, we appreciate it. Appreciate you guys watching. And if you could like the channel and subscribe, that would be fantastic. And we'll catch you all